is called a commodity that will be more precious to the world than oil. We're talking about water. Now, if you got access to it, you probably say, all right, ain't no big deal. I mean, y'all know how bad it is in America now. I mean, hell, the folks are spending literally billions of dollars just to have bottled water when we used to simply get it right out of the faucet. Well, let me turn it this way because they ain't paying no advertising, so they ain't getting no freebie. But the reality is in many parts of the world, again, water is it's a tremendously precious asset. And so it actually has literally national security implications. And so let's talk about this with Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA, Poppy Freeman, activist and co-founder of We Act Radio and author of Nineveh, A Conflict Over Water. He joins me from D.C. Glad to have both of you here. Mustafa, I want to start with you again. For folk who may say, okay, man, I hear you. I mean, walk them through how literally water is considered to be a commodity that would be more precious than oil.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, when we often look at our planet, we see all the blue, which is the water that makes up our planet. But less than 1% is actually able to have for fresh drinking water. So it's a precious resource that we have, and it's one that's being impacted by pollution. It's being impacted by the climate crisis, and it's also been impacted by racism because of redlining and restrictive covenants and a number of other things. It's made it more difficult for our communities. And for most folks, they're like, well, you know, it's not that important. We've got 7 million Americans who get sick every year from dealing with unsafe drinking water. And a person dies every 10 seconds on our planet because of lack of access to healthy water and getting diseases from it.
The thing, Poppy, I saw a show the other day that was pretty interesting, and it was talking about the amount of rain and snow that they've gotten in California, and they said, hey, that this is not, this hasn't stopped their, still hasn't impacted their drought. I mean, that's still an issue. That's still an issue.
Well, what we need to understand is that this is not something new. This has been capitalism, disaster capitalism 101 over and over. The Colorado River drying out is not a surprise. The water levels in the dams there is not a surprise. Wall Street is here to cash in on and capitalize on those inequities. And what we need to understand is that it's a profit motive that's driving all of this. When we look at the Flint water crisis, we know that's profit-driven. When we look at Detroit, Michigan, you have people there who can't afford the exorbitant water bills, so they end up getting their water cut off. And what happens when that occurs? Child Protective Services take their kids. So we actually have water refugees right here in the United States. And on top of that, no one is mentioning the fact that Nestle, a foreign corporation, comes in, pays Michigan $200 a year to pump over a million gallons of water a day. And there's nothing said about this because it's making money for those that has been predominantly discriminating and exploiting the world for its resources. And that's why water is the new oil. We need to make sure that we understand that human rights need to be taken into account. Water should be looked at as a human right and not a commodity. And that is the difference. Martin Luther King said we need a revolution of values. And until we implement those new values, we will continue to get what we always got, and that will be not enough water or dirty water.
There are places, Mustafa, here in America where governments are not necessarily in control of water flow. We even see what's happening in different parts of California where private landowners are playing a role in this. So, you know, walk folks through who may not understand how there are literally water battles right now in the United States.
Yeah, well, Poppy talked a little bit about some of it, but, you know, also look at what's going on with the Colorado River. You've got these compacts that have been in place for decades upon decades. And because of the shrinking water supply, you have these battles that are currently going on between states. And those who are at the headwaters are the ones who, you know, reap the most benefits. And then those who are further downstream are having a more difficult time. So we're seeing out west a number of these different types of situations that are going on where Folks are literally fighting for survival. Farmers are controlling some of the water, but the states and other entities are also playing a significant role. And you're going to see a lot of real challenging situations that are going to play out, not only in what's going on out west, but across the country, because the IPCC and the National Climate Assessment reports, those are the top scientists around the planet, have shared with us that there's going to be struggles in this space. And we know that the disproportionate impacts always fall and the burden is on Black folks and brown folks.
Questions from the panel. Rebecca, you first.
Sure. You just mentioned the Colorado River. And I remember in January, the Arizona AG said that she was going to end the Saudi farming agreement in Arizona, where the Saudis were planting a lot of alfalfa and then shipping that back to Saudi Arabia for their livestock to use. Do you envision other state governments that are impacted by the dwindling Colorado River doing the same thing, ending some of those foreign farming agreements?
Most likely that is going to happen because, as been stated earlier, we have a number of foreign entities that are playing big roles, and whether it's agriculture or things that are happening in the manufacturing space that requires huge amounts of water as well. And folks are going to have to start making some tough decisions if they want to make sure that folks here have this precious resource, or if we are going to allow the products that are being created and shipped to other places to continue to grow in their water use. So I do see folks stepping up into that space and starting to say no more.
To run.
Good. Hey, hello, brothers. Let me ask you, Mustafa. There's a mentality in the States that these things that you're talking about tend to happen in quote unquote third world countries or places far away from America. But we've seen that Flint and Jackson and other cities are having some of these same issues. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, I feel. With the aging out of America's water supply and our pipe system and the quality of water we're getting, do you think that there's going to be a humanitarian crisis in the United States on the horizon?
Oh, without a doubt. And our other panelists is also sharing that as well. We know without a doubt that there is going to not only be a humanitarian crisis, but there's going to be other public health crisis. There's going to be an economic crisis that's all tied to water. We see the dynamics that played out. Y'all just remember when we first went into the COVID-19 pandemic, and when people went to the grocery stores and they couldn't find water and they couldn't find food on the shelves, how everybody freaked out. So we know that these similar dynamics are going to play as we see a shrinking water supply. You won't be able to grow crops in the same places that you once were. And of course, water plays a big role there. And you're not also going to be able to afford, because if we don't rebuild the infrastructure, then the cost of water is going to continue to escalate. And it's going to price a lot of people out. Poppy also shared with folks the dynamics that have been going on in Detroit, where folks can either access or afford the water, and the dynamics that are playing out there. But that is just one example. It's happening in multiple locations across the country. And we didn't even talk about the impacts that are happening from, CAFO, certified animal feeding operations in North Carolina, and a number of other places that are putting these stressors on our water supply, and coal ash. And now PFAS is also in our water supply. So all of this is going to continue to place these stressors that are just going to have folks bugging out.
Poppy, go ahead.
I just want people to understand that in my book, NinevehNovel.com, it paints the picture of a world that water has been priced beyond affordability of the masses, forced them to collect rainwater. It shows what will happen when these resources are in the hands of a few people, and the commodification of those resources at extreme fascist level. Right now, some of us are acknowledging the 20-year anniversary of Iraq war. You know that what that war was fought about. It wasn't even a war, it was an invasion, it was robbery, and we saw it, and it was millions of people that protested about it, and it still didn't stop. But yet, Blackwater, the mercenary organization that made a killing, literally and figuratively, there, the owner being, what is his name? Bessie DuBois murdered his little brother, Eric.
Eric Prince.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Eric Prince. Now, Eric Prince is no longer in the mercenary business per se, but what is he doing now? He's in Africa, which represents the largest amount of agricultural land available on the planet, and they are actually currently right now stealing people's land, making sure they have land to grow food and control the water, and Eric Prince is there now in Zambia providing security because they already know what's coming down the pipeline unless we do something different. We need to have a national water policy in this country to offset what's going to happen. Otherwise, I advise all your listeners to go to Miami, go to South Beach, take a lot of pictures because it's going to be gone in 20 years because it will be underwater. When the polar ice caps melt, and they are melting, the ocean levels are rising. And whether you have enough water or too much water is going to be a problem. And until we stop dancing around this issue and address the real facts, we're going to have a lot of suffrage that could be avoided. So I urge everyone to take this very serious. Deborah Rutter, the president of the Kennedy Center, is doing an event right now called the River Run that's acknowledging this issue. And she says that artists bring attention to issues that we don't talk about and help us understand the world that we live in. And I hope that everyone is hearing this right now.
All right, then. Gentlemen, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Poppy, thanks a lot. Mustafa, we appreciate it. Thanks as well. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back. The importance of the abortion issue.